let's fast forward a little bit to kind of how that happened on the other, where are we at on the other side of, not on the other side of grief. I think we all experienced grief long past the event, but kind of how has your family grown in a way that you didn't anticipate originally?
We got called on like a Tuesday night from a cousin of yours and said, hey, there's this little boy who needs like a place to stay and to go forever. And we were like, okay, what does that mean? Like, well, do you want to come and meet him like right now?
In 4 days.
And then 4 days later we met him, and he was adorable, and his situation was, in that he really needed a place to go quickly. And then how many days was it?
9 days from when we heard about him till he was living with us.
9 days
I always
later.
say sometimes people have 9 months. I had 9 days. But luckily I had such an amazing community that was able to help me through all of that.
Yeah.
Like not only financially, but I just had clothes dropped on my doorstep all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so 9 days.
9 days.
Our son came to live with us. And then it was a long process of meeting all the people involved, and he's got some wonderful people connected to him. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that he needed to be adopted, and we were able to adopt him, which was wonderful. Again, though, that process, it was a process of letting go of what we can control adoption, right? We weren't able to control us growing our family biologically, but we can control adoption. It was a totally letting go of that too, right? And then there was even a lot of disappointment, I would say, in adoption, because we had 2 failed adoptions after we adopted our son. And that
right up to the last minute. So.
Yeah, right up to the last minute. And those were heartbreaking. Absolutely.
That were almost my darker days than infertility. But I think because it was tied into that. It was like triggering that of like, oh, I've had this loss before. Oh, I've had this hope die before. And so it all reminded me of that. And so especially after our second failed adoption, I was really in a dark place. And that is actually when I really started to pursue therapy. I mean, I had before too, but I really was like diving into all that because I'm like, why does this hurt so bad? I mean, understandably. But I definitely felt like I was having feelings of severe anxiety, and not severe, but anxiety, depression, all those feelings. Yeah. And so that's really where I was like, I think I need to go back and really heal from my infertility, because I think it's triggered within all that.
The next step we took was a really growing step for us when we decided to change our home study from adoption to foster care. It kind of represented, I feel like, a lot of things to us, that we were no longer trying to control the situation of us growing our family, but we were open to being a home for people who needed it. And that opening ourselves up for foster care, there were even, one little boy who came to live with us, and now this little girl who's living with us. And it feels like we're loving with our hands open. And for me at least, it feels like, you're never there, but I think I've taken some big steps in learning how to be loving and how to trust God and how to trust God with my future, and continue to be really actively engaged in it. And that's a lot of what foster care represents for us.
And I think in therapy, I was able to really get there. Because like I said before I started my real true grief journey, I felt like I held on to everything that I still had really tight. And I felt like it was when I finally was like, okay, that we could step into foster care with open arms and be like, wherever this goes.
We've talked about how your story has been uniquely knitted. Can you talk about where that name came from? Yes. And I see on the sign behind you, bringing the community into the struggles of infertility.
That's right, yeah. From the beginning of us struggling to grow our family, we realized this is something else. This is so difficult, and we feel so challenged. How come there aren't more organizations, there aren't more people breaking down those taboos and bringing more community into this incredibly common thing? 1 in 8 couples struggle to grow their family. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. It is a struggle sometimes to grow your family. You have to wait 12 months before you can even see a fertility doctor. So there's people all over the spectrum. We thought, how come more people aren't involved in it? So we started to think about an organization that we could create that would speak to this. That's where we came up with the idea that all of these stories are so unique. They're all uniquely knitted together. The kids that are coming out of infertility, in a way, are uniquely brought into the world, whether it's through a treatment plan or through adoption. All of the children are unique. All of the community is unique. And then even what we're doing, bringing community in together and uniting people, is we're kind of knitting everyone together. So the idea of uniquely knitting people came together before the organization did. And then that's kind of when we decided, like, why don't we make it official and try to do something? Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about kind of what Uniquely Knitted offers, how they support individuals in the community of experiencing infertility or working to grow their family, and how they help others support those in their lives?
Yeah. It started with a simple idea.
Yes, it started with I had a bunch of people at church come up to me, and I felt, because I was so open with my story, I was a target for the person that was struggling with infertility. I mean, it just was, and I don't mind. I loved it, and I could see him coming from a mile away. I'm like, "Oh, we haven't talked in a while, and you're coming up. How you doing?" And just crying. So it started with a way that I wanted to bless them, and not only just meet with them, but just like bring them some joy, because they were just really sad and needed some comfort. And I felt like also people were coming to me, how do I support them? I remember one of my sister's friends was really struggling, and she came to me, what do I do? I want to do something, but I feel like I can't do anything. And so I came up with the idea of these 4 items, and they all have like significant meaning: a blanket, a mug, a candle, and a chocolate. And everything that I put in that little basket was baskets. I just gave and just wrote a note and said why I put each thing in there. Yeah. And it was really amazing to her response. She felt so seen. She was blown away. She cried for hours. It was just like, wow, I feel so seen. And so it kind of sparked in me like, that was awesome. Then I did it again. And their reaction was even bigger. And the husband's reaction was even bigger. And then, this made me cry, that one, when I had my second failed adoption, she gave me a basket. Wow. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. Like, so it was just like, wow, these items that were just a candle and a mug from Target, like meant so much. And so that's when Doug and I were like, I want to start a thing where anyone could send anybody a basket, or anyone can send anyone a box of these items, because people that are struggling with infertility, are sometimes in isolation, and a person that's caring for them, if they do know, they don't know what to do. And I would love to be able to give them something to do. And so that's how we came up with the boxes. Yeah. So, and now they can ship anywhere.
Yeah, it started there and grew. We realized people need to be able to support the ones that they know going through infertility in a special way. So what started with that box, sending people those things, led us to start to think, what is it in a further way that the infertility community needs, what these people need. And for us, what is needed is a highlighting of how difficult this journey is. And someone and some organization for us to come in and say, we want to help walk you through this journey. Because however extreme this journey is for you is going to require a different level of self-care for you. You can't kind of just go through it the way you normally go through difficult things. If you've been struggling to get pregnant for years and now you're going through treatments, this is a whole nother thing. So we thought what would be amazing is to unite therapists with people who are going through these things. For us, therapy had been such a blessing to help get that professional level of insight into what's going on in our lives. So we thought, well, why aren't these two worlds connected? The infertility world and the therapeutic world. Like, let's mash them together in a way. And for us, one of the main ways to do that is to find the clinics that are administering these infertility treatments and bring them a therapeutic program that helps transform their care and the care for their clients. So for us, that looks like a more trauma-informed approach to infertility. We have an online platform that we're bringing to those fertility clinics to help transform those clinics into a more therapeutic program, but also to meet the clients where they're at. People who have struggled for a long time already, who are now investing a large amount of money to go and get a treatment done. We want to be able to meet them right there in that space and say, here are some ways that you can care for yourself. Here are some therapists who are going to pour into you. And here's a community of people who have been through what you've been through, who can walk with you through this journey. So Uniquely Knitted started with that idea of just supporting one another with gifts, and has grown into this program that anyone struggling to grow their family can benefit from.
Me and Doug always talk about how we would love to see the infertility community receive empathy and sympathy. I think it's really important to have someone know exactly what you have gone through, and there's nothing like that. And in the fertility world, they call them warriors, like an infertility warrior, like you're the strong woman, you keep going or whatever. But I think there's also needs to be sympathy, and I think that's sometimes missing is the sympathy piece of your own community, your own family, whoever your safest people are in your life. You also need sympathy from them. Because sometimes I've also observed that it's like in the infertility community online, you share your story, then you get pregnant, and then when you announce that you're pregnant, you say, it's okay if you don't follow me anymore. And you're like, right, because now all those people that are following you are struggling with infertility, and now they're triggered and sad because they see that you're pregnant, and so they all go, okay, bye. And now they go back to their community that they have in their world, and they have no idea that they had been struggling for so long. And so I feel like that is a hamster wheel of just like, ooh, I don't think that's good. So I feel like that's why we want to bring our trauma-informed care to that community to teach them how to talk about infertility and how to talk about their story and how to talk about uncomfortable things. That's really our main goal.
And when you talk about bringing therapists and the trauma-informed approach, not only to the box, I know you have literature in the box that really helps to interweave the greater program or support you have to offer. We've had conversations about the ways that you're helping the church engage in this conversation and how sometimes the church can be the most triggering place for someone that is working to grow their family. And so can you talk about how you came into contact with that reality and what you're doing there?
When we think about the two areas in our life where we talked about our infertility the most, it was with our doctors, the clinics that we were at, and our church community, the small groups that we were in, the life groups that we were a part of. So we thought, if we're going to bring some type of understanding, a greater understanding to be more therapeutic when it comes to people who are going through this, it needs to be at clinics, but it needs to be at churches too. This is like the main place that so many people out there are coming to find comfort. And for us, we realized that even in a church setting, a group of people that are driven by Christ-like love, it's hard to know what to say. It's hard to know what to do. A lot of people said, I'll just be praying for you, and then you can never hear from them again. Because what do you say? It is really hard. So we thought, why don't we help churches take this same approach that we're having these clinics take? Creating an environment and an atmosphere where healing, safety, and growth can be promoted. So for us, when we were going through infertility, I don't know if we needed someone to say the magic word. We kind of just needed someone to hold the space for us to be able to go through what we were going through. So we are working on a program that works alongside churches, and Eastside has been a huge part of this. Eastside has been a huge part of the development even of the studio that we're sitting in here now. But you guys have been a great asset for us to help work together to figure out what is it that training that we can bring to a life group, to a care ministry that says, here's how to help someone who's going through some major traumatic life event, using infertility as an example.
Mm-hmm. I think too, I'm a lot on this receiving end, I don't know about Doug, of the people that have someone in their life that are struggling with infertility and they don't know what to say. So I really feel like people are just lost and they're uncomfortable and they don't know what to say, but they really don't want to say the wrong thing. So sometimes they say nothing, which is hurtful, and then sometimes they just spew out because they're like, I'm uncomfortable and I don't know what to say. So that's what we want to come alongside with too, of like, we want to help you know how to respond and care for someone that is hurting. And maybe your go-to response is not necessarily helpful.
It's hard too, because when someone says that they're struggling, you want them not to struggle anymore. So it's like, I don't want this for you. But sometimes that can be dismissive of what they're going through. So it's really transforming all of these places into places that are trauma-informed. And even what that means is it's not magic wording or anything. All it is saying is taking into account all of the things that someone has gone through. You can't even go to a clinic until you've gone and struggled with infertility for 12 months, right? For about a year. So people are coming into the door with struggles already on them. So it's taking that into account. It's also understanding that the thing that they're going through right now is incredibly stressful and can be traumatic. So it's just creating an atmosphere where people feel safe and comfortable to be able to go through what they're going through and not feel like they're going to be re-triggered or feel like they have to perform to be a certain thing, but giving them the space to do that.
Can you say some words of encouragement to those that are watching, for those struggling to grow their family and those who have some people in their lives struggling to grow their family, and can you encourage them to take one step?
I would say to the person that is struggling, I always say that you are not alone and that we see you, we are you.
Yeah.
There's not only you, and to tell one safe person in your life what you're going through.
People watching who want to know more about what we're doing or want to support someone, the simplest way, if you know someone in your life who is going through this, is go to uniquelyknitted.org and send them a gift and send them a box and say, hey, we see you. We know that this is incredibly stressful, and we're an ally with you in this. We're a safe person in this. If you want to know more about the mission that we're on, we're trying to license, a big dream, but we're trying to license every clinic in the United States to have and take this more trauma-informed approach. To say we're going to care for our clients in a way that takes into account all the emotional stress that they're under and transform our practices and care for the whole client and not just one. So there's a lot of work we need to do, but it's taking this studio that we're in right now, that Eastside is even financially partnered with us to create training videos, to create the curriculum that is brought out to the clinics and brought out to the churches to help transform these places, to educate and equip people for how to meet those who are struggling with infertility where they're at. If you want to join and be part of that, I'm going to make it really easy for you. You can always just email us at info@uniquelyknitted.org. There's a ton of work to do. Join us, join Eastside in this fight to advocate for more infertility awareness and this fight to advocate for more mental health awareness within the infertility community. It's a huge goal that we have. But I think I'm really excited about it. And we have some serious action items that we can act on right now. So we just need everyone to kind of unite together and work on it.
Also, another thing is just follow us on our Instagram.
Yeah.
I have so many DMs all the time of people telling me that it's like, wow, that was so helpful for me to know how to care for X, Y, and Z, whoever is in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that's an also great tangible step.
What would you say to a pastor or a small group leader on the best step for them to take on how to best care for those that they're leading or pastoring who are experiencing this?
I want to say one thing
Yeah,
to that.
please do. Yeah.
I think sometimes when someone's struggling with something really hard and they're trying to keep it to themselves, they like to trickle truth. So they like to just say a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you hear the word, we've been trying for a while, we're struggling with fertility, we're getting fertility treatments, I think that would be a good place to maybe ask more into that. That's what I would say. It's those kind of hot words that, you can kind of see and then go, tell me a little bit more of that, or how's it going? Or just make sure, even if it's not in the moment, maybe you thought about it later, and the next time you see them, bring it up. Hey, you said that you were going through fertility treatments. How's that going? You know what I mean? Because sometimes people are forthcoming and sometimes they're not ready, but you might be hitting them in a spot where they are ready to, say their story.
And for me, having spent a lot of years being a pastor and working in the church, I think so often I thought about the curriculum that I was delivering, the message that I was writing and speaking, and the way that people were hearing the truth of the word in their lives. And I sometimes forgot about the context and the life that they were actually living in, and forgot about the situations that they were bringing into the room. And for us, we sat for years and listened to so many sermons that were all filtered through the lens of we're struggling with infertility, we're barely holding on, I need help. And I think what we're advocating for is for every pastor, for every friend, for every relative to see and to understand that those who are struggling to grow their family are filtering their world through that lens. They're filtering every message through that. Every biblical truth is coming into them through this truth that they are struggling. So we have to care about that environment just as much as we care about the truth that we're delivering to them, but caring for the situation and the trauma maybe that they have experienced. So I think our biggest thing would be just to say that people struggle to grow their families. It's not always easy. And people are struggling through infertility treatments right now.
There are people in your church
Yeah,
right now.
1 in 8 couples listening to this right now are struggling. It's okay to talk about. It's okay to bring it up. It's okay to talk about it in your group. It's also okay to not be doing okay and to be struggling. We see you and we're with you in that journey. We all could advocate for more infertility awareness. And I hope even this conversation here moves the conversation forward just a little bit for the people who are watching and at Eastside and for the whole community.
I think one of our therapists that we were working with, building our program, nailed it on the head. She said, the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable they will be. And I think that's so powerful of like, yes, if they say something like fertility treatment or something, the more comfortable you are, educate yourself on what that means. We always tell people that have family members that are struggling, educate yourself. Don't put the burden on the person to educate you. Educate yourself. So if you are a pastor or a small group leader and you hear, people are probably in your group and they haven't even told you, but especially if you hear, educate yourself. What do all these words mean? And I think the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable they will be to share.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to our conversation. I'm so grateful for the time that you guys gave, and I'm leaving so much more educated with a new framework and a new lenses to see people in my life through. And so thank you for that, and thank you for the grace that you bring for those that don't understand, and just the vulnerability of sharing your story.